January 7th, 2026, 3:15 a.m., 200 miles from Moscow. A Ukrainian F-16 pilot watches as his cockpit lights up like a neon sign as a Russian S-400 battery achieves a hard lock. This was supposed to be a stealthy approach, but a single radar blip has transformed a strategic strike into a high-speed survival race. He has exactly 42 seconds to reach the release point for his Storm Shadow missile before a Mach 6 interceptor reaches his position. This isn't just a bombing run anymore. It's a desperate sprint against the most concentrated air defense network on the planet to burn the check Moscow was waiting to cash. The target for tonight is 16 Prospect Budinogo, East Moscow. To the casual observer, it's just another industrial sprawl, but to the Kremlin, it is the MMPP Salyut, the beating heart of the Russian Air Force. This is where the AL-41F-1S engines are born. These 32,000-pound thrust monsters are the only reason the Su-35 can dance in the sky. If these assembly lines stop, the production of Russia's most lethal fighter jets doesn't just slow down, it flatlines. But there is a reason no one has ever successfully hit this facility. Moscow is wrapped in a no-fly zone, so dense it would make a ghost sweat. We're talking about the S-400 Triumph, a system that claims to see a sparrow at the edge of the atmosphere. Attempting to fly into this web is usually considered a one-way ticket to a fiery hole in the ground. So how do you solve an impossible equation? Most commanders would send a massive swarm and pray for luck. But the SBU has a different philosophy. Why use a hammer when you can use a magic trick? Tonight, the mission rests on the wings of just 2 F-16s. That's it. 2. It's a gamble that looks like an impossible mission on paper, but there is a hidden variable in the math that the Russian High Command hasn't accounted for. Panzer loops are sprouting up like mushrooms on every high-rise rooftop. It looks like playing a game at an impossible level, but the Ukrainian pilots are laughing because the first pulse has just been launched. While the F-16s stay low, hugging the tree line at 200 feet to hide from the S-400's long-range gaze, a phantom fleet of 40 Palyannitsia drones is already screaming toward the city. But here is the kicker: these aren't just drones. They are the components of a tactical nightmare called the Echo Pulse. 4:40 a.m. The freezing silence of the Russian countryside is shattered as the first pulse of Palyannitsia drones drops into the river valleys leading toward Moscow. These 700-pound hybrids are screaming at 560 miles per hour, hugging the water at a terrifying altitude of just 100 feet. Ukraine has divided its 40-drone Phantom fleet into 5 distinct pulses, each consisting of 8 units. Right now, Pulse 1 and Pulse 2 are leading the charge. To a radar operator, this looks like a desperate amateurish swarm, and that is exactly what the SBU wants them to see. On the outer perimeter of Moscow, the 92N6E gravestone radar of an S-400 battery swings toward the threat. The Russian operators don't see a sophisticated tactical maneuver. They see a target-rich environment. To them, it's like a group of teenagers trying to sneak into a high-security vault by running through the front door. Targets locked. Permission to engage. The night sky erupts. Massive 48 N6E missiles roar off their launch rails, accelerating to Mach 6 in seconds. In the river valleys, the Palyannitsias have nowhere to hide. One by one, the Russian missiles find their marks. Pulse 1 is vaporized in less than 30 seconds. Pulse 2 fares no better, shredded by a combination of long-range S-400s and the rapid-fire 30mm cannons of the closer Panzer S-1 units. Inside the Russian command center, the atmosphere is electric. Operators are high-fiving, grinning as if they've already won the Super Bowl. They've just achieved an 80% intercept rate. Out of the first 16 drones, only 3 managed to slip through the initial kill zone, and those are likely damaged. Another peaceful night. One operator scoffs, leaning back in his chair. Another easy night. They begin the standard procedure of reloading their Panzer tubes, completely exposed on the rooftops of Moscow's tallest buildings. They think they've broken the back of the Ukrainian attack. But here is the twist that is about to turn their celebration into a strategic nightmare. What the Russians see as a failed attack is actually a masterclass in Lead Wolf tactics. Those first 2 pulses weren't meant to hit the factory. They were sacrificial lambs designed to force the entire Russian defense network to scream its location into the digital void. Every time an S-400 radar pings Pulse 1, it creates a massive electromagnetic torch. Every time a Panzer fires its cannons, it leaves a thermal fingerprint in the freezing air. While the Russian crews are busy high-fiving the final pulses of Palianitsius, the CAAD variants equipped with passive radar homing seekers are silently recording every single coordinate. The Russians think they are the hunters, but they've just turned themselves into the brightest targets on the map. And meanwhile, 200 miles away, the real predators, those two Ukrainian F-16s, are watching the show, waiting for the exact millisecond when the Russian defense is at its most vulnerable. 4:45 a.m. Inside the cockpit of the lead F-16, the fuel flow meter is a grim reminder of the cost of survival. Flying at 200 feet for hundreds of miles isn't just exhausting, it is a thermal nightmare for the engines. At this density, the aircraft is fighting thick, soupy air-burning fuel 3 times faster than it would at a high-altitude cruise. It is like running a marathon while breathing through a straw. The pilot checks his coordinates. 186 miles from the heart of Moscow. It is time. He yanks the stick into his stomach, executing a violent pop-up maneuver. The F-16's nose points at the stars as 29,000 pounds of thrust pushes the airframe toward 15,000 feet. This is a desperate bid to give the Storm Shadow enough gravitational potential energy for its long-range glide. Jettison tanks! 2 empty 370-gallon external fuel tanks fall away into the darkness, stripping the jet of unnecessary drag. Immediately after the 2 900-pound Storm Shadow releases with a heavy thud, the missile's wings pop open, its micro-turbo engine ignites, and it begins its autonomous journey toward the Salyut factory. To mask this high-value predator, Ukraine unleashes Pulse 3 and Pulse 4 of the Palianitsia fleet. 16 more drones scream toward the capital, creating a chaotic wall of noise. However, the Russian defense has stopped celebrating and started calculating. The Big Bird search radar has finally achieved a solid track on the high-flying F-16. Simultaneously, a flight of Russian Su-35s equipped with R-37M long-range missiles is already vectoring in at Mach 5. The Moscow sky was ablaze. The Russian S-400 batteries aren't just firing, they are saturating the airspace. Pulses 3 and 4 are met with a wall of steel. One by one, the Palianitsias are swatted out of the sky like flies. Then the unthinkable happens. The Storm Shadow. The $2 million invisible hunter is picked up by a Panzer S-1's thermal tracker. At this range, the missile's engine heat is a glowing beacon against the freezing morning air. The Panzer operator doesn't hesitate. A pair of 57 E-6 interceptors streak upward. Impact. The Storm Shadow disappears in a violent thermal event 40 miles short of the target. Inside the F-16, the SPO-15 radar warning receiver is screaming a continuous high-pitched tone. A Russian interceptor has a hard lock. The Ukrainian pilot doesn't wait to see the missile trail. He rolls the aircraft inverted and dives back toward the Earth at a 60-degree angle, pulling 9 Gs that turn his vision into a narrow tunnel of gray. He levels off at a terrifying 50 feet, using the terrain as a shield to break the radar lock. He is retreating. The first Storm Shadow is gone. 16 more drones are smoking scrap metal. Out of 40 total assets sent into the kill zone so far, 32 have been neutralized. To any observer, this looks like a total catastrophe. Ukraine has burned a massive hole in its fuel reserves and lost its most expensive weapon for zero gain. The Russian command centers are erupting in cheers again, convinced they've just broken the last-ditch effort of the Ukrainian Air Force. Yet as the first F-16 ghosts back toward the border, the second F-16 is still lurking in the shadows, its pilot watching the fuel gauge and the clock. There are exactly 8 Palianitsias left. Pulse 5. And this time they aren't just carrying explosives, they are carrying the Lead Wolf software that has been quietly recording every single Russian radar frequency that just fired. But the Russians have no idea about that. In their minds, Ukraine has exhausted its arsenal and its courage. Ironically, as they begin to lower their guard, the final 8 Palianitsia drones cross the inner perimeter of Moscow. These are the CAAD variants, suppression of enemy air defenses. They are silent listeners. They're passive radar homing seekers tuned specifically to the frequencies the Panzer S-1 systems used just minutes ago. Suddenly, the Russian Easy Night turns into a cold-blooded ambush. A Panzer operator on a rooftop near the Salyut factory sees a flicker on his screen. Before he can even shout a warning, a 700-pound Palianitsia screams out of the clouds at 560 miles per hour. It isn't aiming for the factory building, it's diving straight down the throat of the Panzer's spinning radar dish. The impact is surgical. The drone's 100-pound warhead disintegrates the billion-dollar eyes of the defense system. One moment the Panzer is a high-tech marvel, the next it's a 20-ton paperweight sitting on a Moscow rooftop sparking like a broken toaster. In less than 60 seconds, 3 of these Guardian systems are silenced. It's a tactical catastrophe. By taking out those 3 specific units, Ukraine ripped a 10-mile-wide blind spot in Moscow's inner shield. Now imagine the panic in that command center. Their screens are going fuzzy, their eyes are being poked out, and the gap they just left open is exactly where the real predators are headed. 300 miles away, the second Ukrainian F-16 pilot sees the blind spot bloom on his tactical data link. He doesn't waste a heartbeat. He yanks the stick pops up to 15,000 feet and picks up both Storm Shadows. Two 900-pound cruise missiles drop into the darkness. They are heading straight for that smoking hole the Palyanitsius just punched in Moscow's sky. The Russians are finally realizing that the easy targets they shot down earlier were just the appetizer, and the main course is moving at Mach 0.9 directly toward their heart. The Russian commander screams for the ultimate countermeasure. Code Black, activate the curtains. On every street corner surrounding the Salyut factory, massive chemical canisters erupt. Within seconds, the entire facility is buried under a thick artificial white fog, a multispectral smokescreen designed to scatter infrared light. Simultaneously, high-power IR jammers flood the area with heat noise, creating a blinding glare intended to fry the sensors of any incoming missile. The Russian commander leans back, a cold smirk crossing his face as he watches the monitors. "Their infrared seekers are blind now," he scoffs. "All they can see is smoke. They're flying into a wall of nothing." To any normal missile, he would be right. But the 2026 spec Storm Shadow doesn't just see, it remembers. This is the ace in the hole that everyone misses. Ukraine has upgraded these missiles with AI